This video was a Patreon suggestion from Steven Stone. Thank you, Steven, for your generous pledge. Horror ARGs, that being alternate reality games or horror-themed web series, are some of the most interesting, immersive, and fresh forms of storytelling that I've encountered in recent memory. Thanks to the internet and the technological age we live in, the possibilities for engaging horror content are nearly endless, and thanks to social media sites like YouTube, Twitter, and the like, these horror stories reach levels of audience interaction, participation, and even believability that are at times unparalleled by films, books, and other mediums. By taking advantage of these means, authors and storytellers are able to create truly engrossing works of fiction that really draw you in and sometimes makes you doubt what's real and what isn't. And I think that is the charm of these types of ARGs and web series. It's fun to imagine the boundaries of reality and fiction being messed with. Today I thought I would go over some, not all, but some of my favorite horror-themed ARGs and web series and try to explain briefly why I think they work so well, just shortly talking about them without going too much into the story details or we'd be here all day. I highly recommend you check them out for yourself. It goes without saying, but these are of course my opinion, and if you feel your favorite horror ARG or web series was left off the table in this video, rest assured I most likely considered it because it was very difficult to narrow these selections down as there are so many good ones out there. Perhaps I will return to this subject again in future videos, we shall see. But without further ado, let's discuss some of my favorite horror ARGs and web series. To start things off, we have to pay respects to my creepypasta roots by mentioning Marble Hornets, originally created by Joseph DeLodge and Troy Wagner. This was the very first horror ARG that I ever came across at the age of 13 back in 2011? How has it been that long? Anyways, Marble Hornets, which in my opinion has aged really well, drew me in from first glance, perfectly taking advantage of being a story told online, not only through its primary channel, but through supplementary channels such as To The Ark as well. These videos, even all these years later, really get under your skin. By capitalizing on a growing medium and taking inspiration from fictional internet urban legends, well, you know the one, it managed to tell one hell of an interesting story with memorable characters and some truly frightening, grisly, and disturbing moments that stuck with you long after viewing them. Despite its low budget, it felt real, gritty, and very off-putting at many points. Some of these special effects used in this series still blows my mind even today. But that's not all Marble Hornets had to offer. Some of my favorite moments of the series were simply the characters interacting with each other, going on walks in the woods, giving vague hints of possible lore to each other, and simply exploring their strange surroundings for hints and clues. Even though the operator or his minions could be lurking behind any corner, and this made these open, vast forests still feel dangerous and oppressive. And don't even get me started on this entry. This one with the dark lighting, tight corridors, and silent sound design before this? Whenever I watched this entry, I felt subconsciously suffocated. Marble Hornets was the first actual ARG I and probably many others ever encountered, and it set the bar really high for me. With limited resources but a whole lot of creativity, it managed to frighten me more than some of the highest budgeted horror films out there, and for that, I still love it to this day, hence why it is in this video. How do I start describing post-content? This Danish ARG is one of my favorites for several reasons. I believe this ARG balances horror and dark comedy perfectly, with our very sarcastic main character going through all the crazy things he goes through over the course of the story while keeping his witty personality intact.
Jehovah's Witness?
Not only are we subjected to some really imaginative and memorable imagery with this one, this faceless lady and white face outside this window being some standouts, we also gain some slightly exaggerated insight into what it might feel like to want to be a YouTuber, wanting to post a bunch of useful tutorials and vlogs, and getting yourself out there on the internet. We meet some cool monsters that haunt our protagonist and learn how he deals with them. Or at least, tries to. But that's not all though, since post-content also pokes at subjects such as therapy, alienation, guilt, and loneliness, and our protagonist seems somehow intertwined with a strange company known as Easygo Solutions, that claims to specialize in helping their clients with their physical and mental well-being, though of course, with any of these ARGs, not everything is always what it seems. Post-content is still active, and I am following the story enthusiastically. Like I said, not only does it include some really cool imagery and concepts, it can also be really funny at times, even when things seem dire, so in a way, you're always on your toes with this one, and surprisingly enough, sometimes the videos are beautiful, peaceful even. Well, for fleeting moments, but that's evidence of the cool achievement that this ARG is so far. It has multiple channels, Twitter accounts, creepy websites involved, the whole menu, which makes researching the goings-on behind the scenes of this series a joy and an exciting venture to say the least. It is unpredictable, funny, scary, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. By combining several different tones and having them clash so frequently, it makes this ARG stand out from others, as you never quite know where to put it or where it's gonna head next. The editing here is also something to behold, as it really helps the series a lot. It is genuinely fascinating, and I personally hold it in high esteem. So from one Scandinavian brother to another, bra jobbat kompis! You know those late nights when you're up way later than you probably should be and zapping through channels on your TV absent-mindedly, checking to see what weird shows are on in the middle of the night? What if in your channel surfing you were to stumble upon a channel you really shouldn't have, but soon enough you find it difficult to look away? Now, I might have a slight bias towards this particular web series, seeing as how I have loved some of the authors' previous work, that being Candle Cove, but Local 58 is probably my favorite horror web series of all time. I mean, it is on a whole different level with how immersive and well thought out it really is at times. This web series, created by Chris Straub, details some peculiar broadcasts from an obscure public access TV channel known as Local 58, go figure, which seems to be constantly hijacked and tampered with, and something is seriously wrong here. It doesn't take long for one to figure that out. This web series has some truly unnerving content in many of its videos and takes inspiration from real-life phenomenon and TV hijackings to make the viewer feel utterly helpless and paranoid by messing with your head and displaying several cryptic messages in many of its episodes. If you are faint of heart, I would not suggest watching the videos of this channel late at night. They really are something else, man. Some of my favorite episodes include Show for Children, a showcase of a supposed children's show on the channel, airing at 4:15 AM. Yeah, definitely the time when kids huddle together in front of the telly, with some of the most striking imagery of the whole ARG. The first time I saw this episode was in the middle of the night, and it was quite chilling. The pacing of these episodes are pitch perfect. Another favorite is Real Sleep, set up as what seems to be an instructional VHS tape for the recipient, flashing confusing messages regarding sleep and dreams in between instructions on what to do. Those faces, well, there are no faces you see, but those, they don't leave your mind after you've seen them. And finally, the unsettling and ominous contingency, which seems to showcase a PSA notifying the viewers of Local 58 that the United States has surrendered to her enemy, and now, in honor of their country, all patriots, even the smallest, must act by, well, watch the video yourself to find out. But it is startling. The language used in the PSA is direct, to the point, and eerily detached, contributing tenfold to the believability of the supposed broadcast. The line, "This message will repeat until there are none to read it," that sticks with you. Of course, all of it is brushed aside moments later because it was all a hoax. Calm down, everyone, there's no need to worry. None at all. Local 58 is one of the most intriguing and well-produced horror web series that I have ever seen, and if you have not watched it yet, I cannot recommend it enough. It is a fantastic horror story for the internet age by perfectly taking advantage of its medium while taking influence from several sources of real-life broadcasts that add credence to the scare factor to create something new and exciting. It truly makes me feel over the moon. Daisy Brown is a very unique ARG. This surprisingly emotionally effective story details our endearing main character Daisy as she cares for her, monstrous pet Alan, pictured here. Not only is Alan's design really freaky as it steadily evolves over the course of the series and constantly makes you and Daisy feel uncomfortable, but the implied story on display here, dealing with some really difficult and serious topics, is, as I mentioned, surprisingly emotional once you figure out what certain imagery or messages might mean in the videos themselves. As someone who regularly struggles with anxiety, this series, it really hits close to home at times. This ARG is seemingly over, having apparently concluded with its final episode being uploaded at the end of August in 2018. And if you have stuck with the whole series from beginning to end, this ending is extremely satisfying and even bittersweet. And that is why I personally love the Daisy Brown series. It's not just a scary ARG with a really cool creature, it is also a captivating and fascinating exploration of complex subjects such as grief, sorrow, trauma, and other things without always stating it out in the open. And I do not wish to give it away for those who haven't heard of it before. It is a series that really sticks with you, and therefore it is another one of my favorites. Utilizing sites like Twitter to deliver supplementary material and using YouTube's subtitle functions to deliver secret dialogue in some of the videos, this series is perfect at giving clues to the viewer to piece things together while also coming up with some really clever ways of unnerving yet also emotionally involving the audience. A personal favorite moment of mine, which is a minor spoiler, is when Alan, the monster who is supposed to be blind, is able to draw a simple painting of Daisy, which is rather concerning. Many moments of the series are also heartbreaking and bordering on difficult to watch, as you feel as though you really shouldn't, but that is why it works so very well. Through many different means all coming together, the Daisy Brown ARG is able to disturb and engross the viewer by telling a story that affects you in more ways than one, and for that, well, it's in this video as another one of my favorites. Go check it out if you haven't already. The internet is an incredibly useful tool for digging up information about any old game, movie, book, or anything really. Say you find some old game at a yard sale you've never heard of before. One quick Google search on your phone later and hopefully you'll know exactly what to expect going in, or if it's even worth checking out, because there are so many obscure and forgotten games out there. Petscop, created by Tony Domenico, is a series that perfectly takes advantage of these types of situations, finding a forgotten video game and sharing it to the world with the hopes of figuring out more about it. The series details the exploits of Paul, our YouTube uploader, exploring an obscure, apparently unfinished original PlayStation game gifted to him by the name of Petscop. What makes this web series stand out and become one of the best is due to the fact that, just like with other similar stories like Ben Drowned, which was a huge influence towards this series, extremely believable supposed gameplay footage is shared by Paul over the course of the videos as he learns more and more about the game through exploring and tinkering around with it, making you feel completely immersed in this world and wanting to find out what is hiding in plain sight. What first seems to just be an innocent game about collecting strange pets, soon takes a darker turn once Paul inputs a secret code found on a note he received alongside the game. Suddenly, he finds himself in a strange new area very much unlike the rest of the experience. What further secrets is this game hiding? It feels real, and you can tell that unbelievable amounts of effort were put into these videos to make them feel as authentic to the PS1 as possible. You can tell the creator of these videos knows his stuff and knows exactly what makes video game horror tick in overt and subtle ways. These videos feel nostalgic for that time period of late 90s games and adds so much charm and credibility to it, which is why it is so good, and why I'm talking about it now. It would feel wrong to not mention this series in a video about my favorite horror-themed ARGs and web series. Video games have very unique ways of scaring the player, and this web series capitalizes on this very well by making the viewer feel isolated, puzzled, and unsettled. It is amazing and essential viewing for anyone interested in horror web series. Well, those were 5 horror-themed ARGs and web series for ya. Man, it actually hurt to exclude some of my other favorite ARGs and web series from this video, but I think for now I will leave it with this selection. These are just a few of the horror ARGs and web series out there that have affected me the most, but certainly not all of them. I would love to come back to this subject at a later date and explore some other horror ARGs or web series that I enjoy, so maybe we'll have that to look forward to, huh? Sounds good. Thank you again, Steven, for your kind pledge to my Patreon and for suggesting this video. Much appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like and comment your thoughts down below. Was there a spooky ARG or web series that you felt I missed? Let me know. Follow me on my social medias if you want to, or check out my Patreon page to support the channel directly. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay awesome. Goodbye.